it's Jen with Astrology. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We are going to be doing a predictive technique called a horary chart. It also is kind of like a electional chart, which we have talked about in previous episodes. So if you haven't watched that episode, I'll leave a link in the description. You can check that out. But this one's a little bit different. And the reason I'm doing this is because since there's been so much interest in football lately and it's football season, we're going to look at the game I chose to do is the Chiefs and Broncos game that is going to be on Sunday. So a little background, a horary chart is a chart drawn for a specific question. So normally you would run the chart for the exact time that you ask a question. So say the question is, where did I put something? You know, I lost something, or am I going to get the job, or, you know, something to that extent. So you run the chart for the exact time that you ask that question. But I do sports horary a little bit differently. So the way I run the chart is I start the time, date, and place. So the time is going to be the pretty much kickoff time. So this game is scheduled to kick off at 4:25, and it is in Denver, Colorado. So it is at the Broncos home field, and and the date, of course, which is on this Sunday. So we're gonna look at that chart. Here's the chart for that particular time and place, and it's pretty much the time that the game is going to start. That's how I do it. So I look at the rising sign over here as the home team. Some people look at it as the favored team, or the team that they're rooting for. I put it as the home team because for this particular game, I don't have a favorite because I am, as you can see here, I'm a Saints fan. So, you know, it kind of is what it is with this game to me anyway. This is the exact chart that's going to happen. So I thought this would be fun. And I wanted to look at this particular game with the Chiefs because they're very popular as of late because of the whole Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce relationship, romance that's going on. And again, I don't have any bias in this because, again, Saints fan, not those fans. So, I mean, I like the teams, they're fine, but I mean, I just thought nice neutral. Sometimes if I'm running a chart for a Saints game, I see what I want to see because I want them to win. Of course, lately they haven't been, so we're going to focus on this one instead. So what we first want to do is we want to look at the ascendant. So I set this for the ascendant, and that is in Pisces. So the ascendant is in Pisces, and that represents the home team again. So the home team in this, like we said, it is taking place in Denver, so it's at the Denver Broncos. So the Denver Broncos are the home team. And then, you know, the opposing team would be in the 7th house, so the opposition, which is going to be in Virgo, and that is going to be what's representing the opposing team, which is the Chiefs. So in this chart, again, ascendant Pisces. So what is the ruler of Pisces? And that is Jupiter. So what you want to look at first in horary, we really only use, so I'm going to get rid of this one, I'm going to get rid of this one, because you really only use the major planets up to Saturn. I am going to throw Uranus in because I did notice something interesting there, and you use also the North and South node in horary charts. You also only use the Ptolemaic aspects, which is the conjunction, the opposition, trine, sextile, and square. So you don't use all the minor aspects, just kind of those major Ptolemaic aspects. Okay, so again, you know, and Rahu and Ketu, the nodes. So the opposition shows the teams playing against each other. So we have, you know, Jupiter in Pisces, and then the opposition is Virgo. So who is the ruler of Virgo? And that is Mercury. So the first thing you want to do, and it shows also, so the seventh house is your visible enemies. So that does represent your visible enemies. Not that the teams are enemies, but it's the one they're in conflict with. So that's kind of shows that. So it is, the house of relationships, yes, but it's also the house of visible enemies. So first we want to check the condition of the home team, because this is really run for that home team. Because they're on the ascendant. So we look at condition of the Broncos ruler, which is Jupiter down here in Taurus. We look at the dignities, the debilities, and the aspects, if they're positive and negative, what have you. So Jupiter is in opposition to Mars and to Mercury. So, and Mercury is what the ruler of the seventh house. So Mercury, so they're in opposition with each other even here. So they're, which shows the opposition between the two teams. So you look at Jupiter, that is the Broncos, and Mercury, that is the Chiefs. So it shows that there are, the problem with the opposition to Mars is that it does show, so it's, it also represents what they normally represent. So Mars is aggression, competition, and Mercury is about, communication and thinking and being quick, and that type of things, because Mercury is a fast-moving planet. So because Jupiter is in opposition, it means there might be some communications with that, action, with the communication between teammates, maybe with the quickness. Maybe they won't be moving quite so fast. Maybe they'll have trouble getting started. So I feel that is kind of a little bit of a detriment right there. So, in opposition there, it's not normally a super bad, but it does show that there's going to be a little bit of strife there. So that's kind of the first flag I see. Second flag I see is that Jupiter is in the house of its death, the Marana Karaskana. So that is in the third house. The third house is about kind of a competition, could be about arguments, fighting, but Jupiter is more of kind of that passive, peaceful planet, so it's really not happy in that house. So it might not put up as much of a fight, say, if it was in its own house, or if it was Jupiter, or if it was Mars instead. So it might not put up as much of a fight. And seen with this placement, the opposition to Mars, in the day chart, that Mars is the malefic. So I'm seeing some issues there already. So not looking quite so good. So it looks like it's going to be kind of like a slow start. They might not put a ton of aggression in, and there might be a lot of trouble with their communication. Also, another flag that is happening in this chart, of course I don't have it written here, but currently Jupiter is retrograde. So when a planet is retrograde, that is another kind of negative aspect when you're looking at a horary chart, especially one for a sports team. So, you're thinking retrograde, they're not kind of moving forward. So it's another bad sign. You don't want the team in retrograde, the planet representing the team in retrograde. And it's in also the third house, which is a cadent house. So it might, so we have the angular house, succeedent, and then cadent. Kind of like, when you think of just the signs themselves, if this was, Aries, we'd have, the houses that way. So we're looking at the cadent house. The cadent house might be a little slower to get started. So it might not have that early momentum. So, it kind of might be a slow build. So again, we see the lack of aggression, Jupiter in retrograde, and the lack of the communication there, or some problems with communication. Might not be lack thereof, could just be problems in general. So next, let's look at the Chiefs. So the Chiefs, again, are represented by the seventh house ruler. Seventh house is Virgo, so the seventh house ruler is Mercury. So Mercury is up here in the ninth house. And so it's in Scorpio, kind of in a neutral house. It's not in a bad house placement. It's not in a bad sign placement. It's neutral, or what they call peregrine. So it's kind of just out there by itself. So it is in conjunction with Mars, which is beneficial because in a conjunction, the planets kind of work together. So you see, Mercury and Mars working together, so I would assume there's going to be a lot better communication there, a lot better aggression, saying, okay, when you think of football, they have to know where you're going to be passing it, and the quarterback has to have good communication with his receivers and kind of know what's going on, and even the defense has to kind of see what's going on as well. And then it's in opposition here with Jupiter, which is the major benefic in a day chart, but it's an opposition again isn't necessarily quite so bad. But see, there are good points and then there are bad points the more you kind of dig. So you just kind of have to, chalk up, points for each one and then kind of deduce what you think the outcome is going to be. So at this glance, at this time, I'm looking at this like things are more beneficial right now for the Chiefs. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper. So also, it's in the ninth house. So the ninth house is a succeedant house. So again, it's not in the angular house. It's not going to be playing at its, top peak, at its fastest, but, it's going to be maybe doing a little bit better than the Caden house. Maybe get a little earlier start, maybe a head start. Maybe they'll get up ahead and score a little bit faster, and where the Broncos are going to take a little bit to get started. So both are actually in fixed signs, so that's kind of equal. So, if one was, in Aries, that would, mean, okay, so that's going to be a little bit, more aggressive. It's not going to be, and if it was an immutable sign, but they're both in fixed signs, so they both, they have that fight, they have that, that stick-to-itiveness that fixed signs have. They're going to just kind of, go along and keep playing. They're not going to start off, big and then finish slow. So it looks like it might be a good game. So the next thing we want to look at is the ruler of the second house. So the second house in a sports horary chart can represent the support or the players on the team. So this one is in Aries. So we have the ruler is Mars. So ruler of Mars is up here in the ninth house. So I feel this is actually positive. So this is the teammates for the Broncos because it's the second house to the first house. So that's the Broncos. So we see that as, okay, so, the team might have some issues together, but they do, they are going to put up that fight. So even though they might have the communication breakdown, they are, willing to kind of bring it. But being in that opposition to Jupiter, again, it might be some, issues with completing passes. Maybe this guy was supposed to go right and he goes left, and, they miss, because of that Mercury as well. But still, it looks a little bit more positive for the Broncos for that. And we do have the North Node also in the second house. So that's a really good sign too. North Node is what we're working towards, that brass ring. So having the North Node in the second house for the Broncos, that's good. So they really want this win. Maybe they haven't been doing that well. I know that their record is not as good as the Chiefs, so maybe they really feel like they really need to have this win. So now we look at the Chiefs players and their support. So we want to look at the seventh house and the second house from that. So, you put them as the first house and the second house. So the second house, and I found this amusing. So the second house from the seventh house is Libra, and what is the ruler of Libra? It's Venus. So Venus is here in the seventh house, representing, the opposition and representing the Chiefs. So when I saw this, it kind of made me laugh, because what is Venus all about? Venus is all about love. And what is making the Chiefs so popular right now is this new romance that we have with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. So we have the players, Travis Kelce, kind of represented by this kind of love affair. So, Venus is just happily placed there. So we'll call Venus, little Taylor Swift here, happily placed in the seventh house. She probably will be at the game. I know she's been at a lot of them. So in the house of the team and of relationships. So maybe her being there makes, Travis Kelce play a little better because he wants to impress her. Not that he's not already really good, but, all men like to be show-offs and, show what they have, strut their stuff. So to me, I think that is a little, it's hard to tell, because we have the North Node here for the Broncos, but yet we have positivity over here, which is the lesser benefic over here, representing the players on the Chiefs. So we see two positives right there. So next, what we want to look at is the fifth house. Excuse me. I'm still working on this cold that I've had forever. So the fifth house is Cancer, and that represents the game itself. So you can look at the fifth house, and you also want to look at the 10th house. The 10th house represents the actions and the play of the game, where the fifth house represents kind of the game itself. So the fifth house, Cancer, the ruler is the moon. So in horary, especially sports horary, you can use the moon, or you can use the ruler that the moon is in. So now my moon, of course, doesn't have the backing on it, but the moon at this time is going to be in Taurus at 20 degrees. So it's going to be situated right here in between Jupiter and Uranus. Excuse me. So it is, which I found this kind of interesting too. So it's conjunct Uranus, and again, I don't normally use the outer planets in horary, but in this one, because of the placement of it, I kind of felt like I wanted to keep it in there. So the moon, what's the condition of the moon? You want to also look at the condition of these planets, that are everywhere. So the condition of the moon is actually quite good. It's in its exaltation of, in Taurus. So that means the moon is kind of put up on a pedestal. It's going to be, it's glorified almost. So let me look at my notes. And again, it's conjunct Uranus. So maybe a surprise upset. I feel like it is conjunct Jupiter also. So this is all very good for the home team, the Broncos, because it's got a conjunction here with Jupiter, and it's on an applying aspect to Uranus. So it's moving towards a big change or a big surprise, or something that will maybe cause a big change in the game, or so could be a big upset, could be that they make a big comeback later in the game, but I think it really is going to benefit the Broncos. So I found that really quite interesting. And then we have Mars can also, Mars on its own can also represent the game or the fight. Mars is that aggression, that fighter. So in conjunct with Mercury, that's a good sign for the Chiefs. So, again, beneficial for both. So still want to deduce a little bit more. So then we want to look at the 10th house. So this is the actions of the game. So the actions of the Broncos would be in the 10th house, which is Sagittarius. Up here, who's the ruler of Sagittarius? Jupiter. Down here, we already know its condition and everything, because that is also the ruler of Pisces, which is the ruler of, or represents the Broncos. So it's got the same kind of issues, the same kind of benefits. So then we look at the 10th house for the Chiefs. So when you want to see the 10th house from the 7th house, you start here like this is the first house, and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, didn't finish counting. So that's Gemini. So they are represented by the 4th house ruler, the actual gameplay, and so that's Mercury. That's the ruler of also the Chiefs. So that's kind of the same. So we don't really get anything positive or negative from any of that. So then we have the nodes again, and the nodes we have in Aries. So in the 2nd house, which benefits the Broncos. So putting this all together, so what have we learned? So ultimately, I don't think it'll be a big blowout, honestly. If I was just a regular, person watching the game, I would just be like, okay, so, the Chiefs, they've been a really good team. Everyone knows how good they're playing. The Broncos have been having difficulties. So I would automatically think, okay, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. But because of these factors, and we do have the, Jupiter in retrograde, so, that's a detriment. We have the opposition with Mars. We have the opposition with Mercury, so troubles with communications. But then we have the things that benefit it. So ultimately, what I think is going to happen, now, don't use this for betting or anything like that. These are you put your own kind of spin on it. So it's always, up to kind of, what's going to happen. And but here's what I think is going to happen. So I think that because of the Jupiter retrograde in opposition to Mars and to Mercury, I feel like most likely the Chiefs will win, unless we have our wild card right here. So I feel there's going to be a surprise, maybe hopefully not an injury, but a lot of times those do cause big changes in games. So I think that there's going to be something that kind of turns the tables. So hopefully Travis Kelce doesn't get hurt, because I do, even though I am a Saints fan, I do love watching Travis Kelce play. He's a lot of fun to watch. So hopefully it's not anything bad that happens like that. But I feel like because of something, or somehow, I think the Broncos are going to be losing at first, but I think they're going to make a surprise comeback, and I think they're really going to kind of turn the tables because of this Uranus kind of working in favor for the Broncos. So still I say the Chiefs are going to win, but I think that the Broncos are going to come back, maybe from, maybe the Chiefs are going to have a lot of scores in the beginning of the game. I think that the Broncos are really going to put up a good fight at the end, really close that gap, and either, I think the Chiefs ultimately will win, but I think it will end up being a close game. So I say still Chiefs win. So we'll see. Anyway, if you like this video, please hit the like button and comment and see what you think. What do you think is going to happen on this game? And what game should we look at next? If you have any requests, I'd be more than happy to oblige them. And so as always, hit that subscribe button and the get notified bell, and that way you will see the upcoming videos. So I hope you enjoy, and we'll see what happens. Have a great weekend, and go Saints, ultimately. Bye-bye.